Hi all, good evening everyone. In this session we are going to discuss about a servlet concept and web applications. How do we create a web application? So before discussing about servlet, we need to have a knowledge on client-server architecture. The client-server architecture is all web applications follows the client-server architecture. That is, the client will give the request. The client requests the server for some resource, and then the request will process in server, and the server will give the response to the client. The client is nothing but our PC, which we are giving the request. For example, in Google, see here, in case if you want to open Facebook, then is there any Facebook in my local PC? Actually, the Facebook is not in my local PC. The Facebook is a web application. It's there in some server that I can access through internet. That is a web application. Facebook is a web application. So how can I access the web application? I need to give the request URL request. So how will we give the request? www.facebook.com. When I give www.facebook.com, then it will open the Facebook. Right. So here we can give a request. When I click on here, it's open the something page. When I click on home, it will open some other page. When I click on request, so here something we are giving, we can confirm the request if you get the request. So this is a web application. So this application we are getting from some server. It is deployed in somewhere in the server. Just by giving this URL www.facebook.com, I could get this page, this web application. So we can design such applications using servlet technology. We can design that application using servlet technology. Now client, this is the client. So this system, my PC is the client. Then server, so this application is deployed in somewhere in the server. So client server architecture, when I give the request is URL. This is the request URL. When I give this request URL, then this request will hit the this resource which is in server, So to design such applications, web applications, we'll use the servlet technology. So the client server architecture is this is a client server architecture. So from our PC, we give the request. As I shown you, we will give something www.facebook. So the Facebook application is inside this server. The Facebook application is inside this server. And then based on the request I sent, based on the URL, then it will process the request here inside the server and then give the response. And then again our Facebook, it will open here. So initially there is nothing here. So when I open here, initially there is nothing here. Just it's a Google page. When I request, it means we are sending the request. If you see here, from here, this is my client. This is the client. From client PC, I am sending the request. as URL. So the URL is www.facebook.com. This is the URL I am sending. When I send this URL, then go to the server. In the server, there is this application, and then this application is processed and sent the response to same client. This is my client page. It gets the response to this page. So similarly, such applications we can design using our servlet technology. So servlet is a technology, it's a server-side program. It's a server-side program. It's a server-side program. So how can we define the servlet? A servlet is a technology. Servlet is a technology. It's a server-side program. It's a server-side program. We'll write this program in server-side. So this web application will follow the client-server architecture. The web application will follow the client-server architecture. Then let us design one web application. Then we will get some clarity on servlets, where we use the servlets, and then later we will go in depth about servlets. So using servlet we can design the web applications. So here we are going to design one web application, that is registration form. That is the registration form. So how we will design a web application? Our requirement is, so I need one web page. This is the web page. This is the web page. So here I have a name, email and password. Name, email and password. I will give these details, name, email and password, and then when you click on register, it's a button. When I click on register button, then these details, name, email, password, has to store in database, through this servlet. So this is the client page, this is the server, this is the database. So servlet is a program that will write here, that will deploy here. We'll write and deploy in this place. So this servlet process the request. What request? The registration request. So when I send something here, the name Srini, email srini@gmail.com and password 1234, and then when I click on register, then this data has to transfer to registration servlet, the register servlet. From this servlet, the data has to insert into the database. That is, so in the database, I have a student table. In the student table, it has to insert. So here, name Srini, and here email srini@gmail.com, and then password 1234 has to insert in this table, in this database table. So for that, what we required, so initially as our requirement, initially we need a database. So as of now, I have installed the Oracle database, as we previously discussed, JDBC. So we use that JDBC in this servlets. So if you want to connect with the database, if our Java application has to connect with the database, then we must use JDBC. We will use the JDBC in this program. So we must have the database. Yes, I have a database, that is Oracle database. I already installed in my local PC. So then I open the database. So very first, I must have the table. I must have the table in backend. So I'm going to create a table in backend as a student table. So how will create the table? Create table. Create table. The table name is student. And here name. This is a student name. Character 2 of 50. It will allow 50 characters. And then email. Email is also 2 of the size. Not allow more than 50 here. And then password. Where 2 of bracket did not close it here. Yeah. So now I'm going to create the table. Your name is already used by an existing object. So this table is already available. So if table is already available, it doesn't allow to create. So I'm giving students, student 1. Yeah, table is created. That is student 1 is my table name. So therefore there is no data here. So it's a fresh table. There is no data found. No data found. Now I need to insert the data from this form. So I need to design a form like this, and then when I click on the registration, then the data has to insert into this table, student 1 table. So for that, we have to create a web application. So open Eclipse. It takes a while to open. Yeah, till now we have created a project that is Java project. Now for web application, we need to create a dynamic web project. So for creating the dynamic web project, just click on File and then select the New option. And here you can see option, that is the dynamic web project. Dynamic web project. Just you select this dynamic web project. And then here we need to give the project name. The project name you can give as your wish. So I'm giving the project name registration form. Registration form. So just I'm giving A because it will be on top. And then just click on next. When you click on next, we'll have this SRC folder. This SRC folder will have the actual source. You can see later, and then click on next. So here you can see the option that is generate web.xml deployment descriptor. Just check this checkbox. You have to check this checkbox. Once you check this checkbox and then click on finish. See here, the project is created, that is a registration form. A project is created. This is a web project. So that's why it's showing this symbol, web symbol. This is the web symbol. So then when you expand this project, so these are the folders are available. Those are Java resource, JavaScript resource, build, and web content. So Java resource, if you expand this Java resource, here we'll have a SRC folder and then libraries. This SRC folder, here we will create our actual code. Here we will create our servlet. We'll create our actual servlet. And then here in the web content folder, when you expand this web content folder, have a subfolders. Those are meta-inf and web-inf. This web-inf, when I expand this web-inf, here we'll have a lib folder and web.xml. Web.xml, this is the deployment descriptor. So this lib folder will, so as of now it's a web application, but till we not confirmed which technology we are using here. I mean servlet or JSP or Spring Hibernate. So this lib file, this lib folder will have jar files. If you are designing the project on servlet, so here we have to add the servlet and JDBC jar files. So the servlet and JDBC supported jar files we have to add in this lib folder. Okay, we'll see that later. So this is a web project. So we're going to design a web application. So what I'm doing here, the very first, as per our requirement, it must have a table in the database. Yes, I have already created the table in the database, and then I need to create this web page. So for creating this web page, I am using HTML. Using the HTML, I'm going to create this page. So for that, I need to create a HTML page. That HTML page I will create on this web content, in web content folder. Just you select on web content folder and right click on web content folder. Here new. Here you can see the HTML file. Just select on HTML file option. So here by default we will have a new file.html. So here I'm making it as index.html. My HTML page name is index. And then click on next. And then click on finish. Yes, my HTML page is created. This is my HTML page. So here title, what the title we want to give here, we can give the title is registration form. Registration form is my form name, and then I need to design a application like this: name, email, and password, and then it should have a button. So for that, what I need to do here is I need name, this is the HTML. Type equal to text, name equal name. So similarly, how many I need? Name, email, and password. So just I copy it. So this is the email. This is the password. So here you need to change the name is email, and here name is pass. So these are these three text fields. These three text fields. Now I need to create a button. For creating a button, these input to submit, and then value equal register. So because here was the name is register, so that is the value is register. These all must be inside the form. Because it is a form, HTML form. So these all must be inside the form. This is the form. All in between this form. So here we have a method. HTML form method is post. Since we are inserting the data, it will be a post, and then here it will be a register. So just I have created a HTML page. Now let us run this project. So how we can run this project? Just select on project. This is the project, and then right click. When you do right click here, you can see run on server. Just you click on run on server. So and then finish. It will take a while. Yeah, our form is open. So for best view, I will open in the Google Chrome. So here I am giving the URL. This is an URL. So here name, email, password, and register, because here we need to break it. So for breaking, here we have a tag, that is BR tag. So this tag B for all text fields. After all text fields, it should be this. Now if you refresh it, now see name, email, password, and then here we have a button, that is register. So here I will give the name Srini and password C.Srinivasulu77, and then password is 1234. And then when I click on this register button, these details has to insert in this table. These details has to insert in this student table. So if these details has to insert into student table, then I need a servlet. So I need to create the servlet. So how can I create a servlet? So here we'll have the src folder. In src folder, when you expand this Java resource, we can find the src folder. And src folder, just give the right click, and new class, new class. So the package by default it will give the project name. So the package com.sri com.sri is my package name, and then the class name is the package name. The class name is register, and yes, the class is created, that is register. So as of now, this class is a normal class. Now I need to make this class as a servlet. I need to make this class as a servlet. So to implement servlet, I can implement servlet in three ways. One is by implementing the servlet interface, and the second approach is by extending the generic servlet class, and the third approach is by extending the HTTP servlet class. So we can implement the servlet by either these three ways. But mostly we implement the servlets using by extending the HTTP servlet, because the generic servlet is protocol independent. We can use any protocol, but for web we'll use the HTTP protocol. So for HTTP protocol we'll use the HTTP servlet. So we can implement it by extending the HTTP servlet. So for that, extend HTTP servlet. HTTP servlet. So this servlet will have internally will have some methods. There is a servlet life cycle. How it will execute the servlet. So the servlet life cycle is the servlet life cycle. So the very first I have created a servlet. This is the servlet. Register is my servlet. So very first, what it happened, it load the servlet class. The servlet class will get load. Once the servlet class is loaded, then it create the servlet instance. It means it will create the servlet object. Servlet object will create. Once the servlet object is created, then throughout the life cycle, it will create only one object. It will not create multiple objects. Throughout the life cycle, it will create only one object. And then in the third step, it will call the init method. The init method will initialize the instance of the servlet. This init method is also called only once throughout the life cycle. And then the service method will call whenever we send a request. So for each and every request, it will call the service method. And then we'll process the service method. Once it processes the service method, then depending on the request, whether it is internally it will call do get method or do post method. The servlet will call do get method or do post method. Do get method in case if our servlet is retrieving the details from database, we will use the do get method. If our servlet is inserting the data into database, we will use the do post method. So these methods internally will call by the service method. And then once it processes the service, then it will call the destroy method. The destroy method will remove the object and will make it to the garbage collection. remove the garbage collection. So the registration form here we have created, we are giving the request. So yeah, here we have created the page. This is the code for this page, for this web page. For this web page, this is the code. So now here is a input. Here we are giving the input. These are the text fields. These are input fields. Then the text field, this text, the name of this text is name. The name of this text is email. The name of this text is pass. So these values will save, will hold as name and email and password. As name, email and password. So now these values has to get for this servlet. Those values has to get into this servlet. If those values has to get into servlet, here we need to call a method that is do post method. Do post is a method. So when you create this do post method, so this method will have HTTP servlet request object and HTTP servlet response object. HTTP servlet request object and HTTP servlet response object. Why these servlet request options object and response object? Because as I shown you previously, it will follow the client server architecture. In the client server architecture, how it will be? First, it will send the request. If it has to send the request from web page to server, then we need a request object. So after sending the server here, it will do the process and give the response. So if it carry the response, we need the response object. So those two objects are created here. HTTP servlet request, the request object, and HTTP servlet response, the servlet response object. Response object. Now, when it is giving the response, which type of response it will give, that we need to set using this response. Response dot set content type. How it will be the content? Response dot set content type. So the content type is text by HTML. It will be text and HTML. So the response will be in the form of text and HTML. Will be in text and HTML. So as you know already previously, if you want to print something on console, what will you use? You will use the system.out.println statement, right? So similarly here, if you want to print something on web, here if you want to print the response, suppose when you click on this register, if the data is inserted, then it has to display one message, that is registration has been successfully completed. If you want to display such messages on web browser, then we need one object, that is response object. So that is response dot, this response object will have a method, that is get writer method. That is get writer. So it will return print writer object. It will return print writer. And the print writer object name I have given, that is out. So if I want to print something, then out.println, then whatever I give, then that message will print on web page. Now I have a request here. Srini and c.srinivas77@gmail.com and the password. These values I need to get here. If I want to get these values here, it means these values. The name value, what is the name value? The name value is Srini. The email value is c.srinivas@gmail.com. The password value is this one. And this is submit is the. If I want to get these values, then I need to get this request as request. These values, I need to get these values as request. So for that request, I have already a request object, that is HTTP servlet request object. So I can get those values using this request parameter. Request dot, there is a method get parameter is a method. Request dot get parameter of, here need to give the value. What is the name here? For name, what is the name? Here, this is the name. We need to give this name. Now here the name Srini is available. Now for holding this, we required a variable, that is string name. Now the name is Srini, that it will get from this screen. So similarly, here we have email and password. So I need to get the request. For that, just I am copying same, and then here it is email. Here it is password. Variable is email and the variable is password. So now these values are getting here. So what's the next step? I'm getting up to here. The next step, I need to insert these values into database. If I need to insert these values into database, now this application has to connect with database. If this application has to connect with the database, then I must use the JDBC. So now I require the JDBC program. So previously we already discussed the JDBC. So now I will use that JDBC. So where is the JDBC app? Here there is a JDBC app. The JDBC app. Here we have prepared statement example. So here we have a inserting. We are inserting something. So I will use this. We'll use this one. So here for JDBC, first we need to load the driver, and then we need to get the connection. Yes, we get the connection, and then we need to insert the data into not EMP table. That the data we have to insert into student1 table. The table name is student1. And values, how many values here? How many columns this student table has? Only 3 columns: name, email, and password. And then I need to set the values insert into student 1 values. Here we have a just position parameters. We need to set the values. So which values we have to set? These values. These values here, name, email and password. These values I need to set it. So for setting these values, what I do here, this is the object, prepared statement object, prepared statement set string, name is the string. So set string, position parameter index 1, for index 1 was the value name. For second, what is the second value? The second value is email. This you can copy. Email here for second position. It will be. Then for third position, the third position is also a string. This is also a string. So for third position, giving password. Giving password. So then once it is executed, then it will return how many records are inserted, the number of records inserted it will return. So now it will be a I value. So now here I will write one condition. The condition is if I greater than 0, it means even 1. If I greater than 0, then I will print. That is how I can print, by using out object, out dot ln, out dot println of, here I will write registration in successfully. I don't know whether all the spellings are correct or not. So let us take it here. Correct? So here we will check the spelling. Successfully. Where is the spell checker? Spell checker. Spell checker. Reference. Spelling. Yes. Okay, whatever, even if nothing will happen, even it is wrong. To print this message, registration has been completed successfully. No more requests. Okay, now what happened here when we click on register, when you click on register, these values will get here: name, email and password. These values are inserting into this table, student 1 table, student 1 table. So if data inserted successfully, then it will return this statement, that is registration has been completed successfully. Okay, now after doing this, so here we are using servlet, here we are using servlet and JDBC. So if our project has to support the JDBC and servlet, then we need to add two jar files. Those are OJDBC 14 and servlet API. We need to add those two jar files in lib folder, So I have already downloaded those two jar files from Google and then I placed here. So here in lib folder I have OJDBC, I have files OJDBC 14 jar and servlet API jar. We require these two jar files. Let's copy these jar files, and then these jar files are required for our project that we need to place in the lib folder. So here in the lib folder, here you need to paste. So now our lib folder will have OJDBC 14.jar and servlet API.jar. So these two jar files are must, because this jar file supports the JDBC connection. So if there is no this jar file, then this driver will not load. This JDBC driver will not load. So we'll get the error here itself. And then if there is no this servlet, then we cannot use this class. This class will not be a servlet class. It doesn't support it. So we require these two jar files. And then now when you run the project, when we run the project, the execution will start from web.xml, from deployment descriptor. The execution will start from web.xml. From here it will start the execution. So here we have welcome file list. welcome file list. What it do this welcome file list? When we run this project, the welcome file will call. So in the welcome file, I have given index.html. Index.html. So index.html. So first it will call this index.html page. So this is the index.html page. This page will call. So when call this page, registration form, that is this page, registration form, when call this page, that is the registration form. So it will create this form, name, email, password, and then registration button. When click on this, then immediately in this action, it will call this action. The action name is register. So it will call this action. So it's a submit is a button. So when you click on this, it performs some action. It is the form action. When you click on register, it performs some action. The action name is register. So now this action is the URL. See, when I click on register, here the URL will change to register. Here it will add one more parameter, that is the register. That is the action we are sending. That is the URL we are sending. When we send that URL, then what happens? When you send that register URL, then it has to call this servlet. Register servlet. If this servlet has to call, then here in web.xml, we need to configure the servlet. So for configuring the servlet, we need to map the servlet. So for that, we'll have a tax, that is servlet. In the servlet, here we need to give the servlet name and servlet class. The servlet name is register. Just I am giving whatever you want to give, you can give. That's up to you. The servlet name I am giving register. And the next tag is servlet class. For this servlet, what is the class? Servlet class. So the servlet class is, this is the class. Register is the class. We have to give this class name with fully qualified name. The fully qualified name is nothing but along with the package com.sri.register. So to give the class name, that is com.sri.class name. So for this servlet name, this is the class. And then after the servlet, we need to map the servlet with URL. For mapping the servlet with URL, we'll have another tag, that is servlet mapping. So within this servlet mapping, here we need to mention the servlet name and URL name. The servlet name and URL pattern. We have to give servlet name and URL pattern. Servlet name is, this is the servlet name. And then it has to be it has to be the URL pattern. The URL pattern slash, this is the URL. This is the action. When this is the URL register. So action, what action will perform? This is the action will perform. When this is the URL, this URL. Now here when call, the URL name is, this is the URL. If the URL name is register, then what is the servlet name? Register is the servlet name. If the servlet name is register, then what is the class for this servlet name? This is the class com.3.register. So whenever there is a register URL, if the URL pattern is register, then immediately it will call the register servlet name. The register servlet name class is com.3.register. Then immediately it will call this class. It will call this class. So in this class, what we are doing? We are getting the request parameters. Those are name, email, and password. So from where we are getting these values? These values we are getting from this index.html page. These values, so name, email, and pass. So these are these values, name value, password value, whatever we are sending from UI, from client. So these are the values. So name is Srini and email is srinivas770@gmail.com and password is 1234. These values. Now these values has to insert into database. If these values has to insert into database, we must connect with JDBC. We must connect with the JDBC. So for connecting JDBC, we require the JDBC program. We need to load the driver and get the connection, and then need to insert those values into the JDBC, into the database table, that is student 1. Student 1. So first let us run this project, and then I will explain you once again the complete flow. So how can we run this project? Select the project and right click, run on server. Run on server is the one way. The other way is, here already we have the project. So this project is added for this server, and then here we have an option, it is already in start mode. Just I'm stopping this, and then once you can clean this server, and then again we can start. For starting, we can select the server and then right click. Here we have an option, start. Project is started. The project is started. Now the URL is localhost 8081 is the server port number, and then project name, and then project name. Refresh. So it has created this form, and here I am giving the name is Srini and password is email ID is c.srinivas770@gmail.com and password is 1234. Now when I click on this, these details, Srini, email and password has to insert into database in this table. In this table, the table is here. In this table, select star from student. As of now, there is no data in this table. But now, when I click on register, then registration has been completed successfully. The data has been inserted into the student 1 table. Now let us check whether the data is inserted into the student table or not. So as of now, no data found. When click, here name Srini, email c.srinivas770@gmail.com and password is 1234. The data has been inserted into database successfully. That it has sent this message. Registration has been completed successfully. This is the web application. So as of now, simply I have created one simple registration page. In real time, we'll have a multiple pages like this. So how will be the flow? The execution flow? The execution will start from web.xml. The actual execution will start from web.xml. So first the index.html. This is welcome file. Whatever we will place inside the welcome file, that file will execute the first. So what is that file? Index.html. So here we have a index.html. This is the index.html. For index.html, we have a name, email, password. This I have written pure HTML code. It's a pure HTML code. So because of this code, it has created this form. It has created this form. This is the form. Now I give the values and then click on register. Click on register. So previously when I click on register, what happened? Here the URL is added, register URL. So if URL is register, it means if it perform the URL as register, if this is the URL, then which servlet has to call? That we will map in the web.xml here. So if URL pattern is register, if it is /register, then it has to call the servlet name register. For servlet name register, what is the class? Servlet class. The servlet class is register. Then immediately when this is the URL, it will call the register.java class, register servlet class. So this is the register servlet class. So in this register servlet class, what we are doing? We are getting the parameters using HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response. These are the parameters. These are the parameters we can get when if our class is servlet class. For every servlet class, we will have a HTTP servlet request parameter and HTTP servlet response parameter. The request parameter to get the request from the UI from here, from index.html. From here we can get the request. That is, from here we can get the request. These values we can get as a request. And the response, so after register we send to one response, that is registration has been completed successfully. So for sending that response, we need the response object. So as of now we have request object and response object. These two objects we have. So using the request object, we are getting all parameters, name value, email value and password value. And then we are inserting these values using JDBC program. And then after inserting the data, we are sending the response using response object, out object. How we get the response out object? From response.getWriter, it will return the printWriter object. The printWriter object. The printWriter object will print the messages on web browser. So now using this out object here, using that out object, we are printing. So out.println registration has been completed successfully. That message will display. So like that you can send, you can register, any number of persons can register. So as of now Srini has registered. Now the other one can register. The other one is, suppose Ram, and the email is something. This is an email, and password is password. And click on register. Yes, registration has been completed successfully. When you see in the SQL, so other record also inserted Ram. So this is the email and then password. So if you see here, register this parameter pass. If register parameter pass, that servlet will call. After calling that servlet, this message will display. Now again, I remove that register. So here I'll call Sam. Here. Sam at Gmail. And then password is something I can give. Password. Click on register. Registration has been completed successfully. Yes, this record also inserted in database. You can check it. So have Sam at gmail.com and password is password. Yeah, this is for today. In tomorrow's session, we'll go in depth about servlets, servlet life cycle, and then servlet, how it will redirect the servlet if it has to redirect to some other websites, some other page, how it will redirect. That we will see in tomorrow's session. Until then, take care. Bye bye. Good night.